Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Binford Chronicles. Thank you for joining us here. We love having you. I just wanted to share with you this week. It's been a really busy week. I went to the Young Republicans Club and filmed their forum. They had the candidates there, and I'm still working on those, so they'll probably come out this Saturday. And then we went to the Republican Club of Indian River County, which was last night. And that was a fantastic forum. Oh my gosh, Thomas Augustus, he pulled it together. We had all 7 candidates. Can you imagine that? All 7 candidates from this large district that we have to get used to. We are so used to being just us and a piece of Brevard County and having our congressman to ourselves. Now we have to share, guys. We have to share. Our congressman is going to be spread out, and hopefully we will have a congressman that has an office in every district, not district, but every county. So anyway, we've got Steve Rance with us today, and he is a pastor, a military veteran, and he is a supporter of Trump, so he has our values. Yes, he does. He wants to secure those borders just like we want to see it done. And it has been done. Thank you, President Trump. And he wants to cut that wasteful spending. You know, it's amazing that it took Nick Shirley, a 22-year-old young man, to expose the fraud that is going on. And these are people, H-1B visas. They came over from different countries. It's kind of insulting. It's like letting somebody in your house and they take advantage of your kindness. We have such a wonderful nation with great opportunities, and these people are coming over to rip us off. That just pisses me off. It really does. So, we need to get people in Congress that are going to be with us on the same page. We have so many people that are being indoctrinated in our nation, our children being indoctrinated. And, we're letting some of this stuff come in. It's feeding in, and it's filling some of these young people's minds with socialistic ideas, thinking socialism is going to work in America. Where has socialism worked? Where has it worked? Nowhere. Now, listen, we've got God-given freedoms that we need to protect, our free speech, our right to bear arms. A lot of people can't really just attack America because America's loaded, literally. So keep our Second Amendment there. Don't fight against it, because people will not just take advantage of our nation because they know everybody's going to come out and fight back. So we've got great candidates, and we've been trying to pull them all together on the board report because that's more of a local station. My Binford Chronicles, we get a little bit more free with our speech here. Yeah, but locally, because there's families and children, we're going to keep it very politically straight, on the board report. We still ask those tough questions, but on Binford Chronicles, anything goes. So if you have children in the room, put them away. There might be some subjects they don't want to talk about. So let's take a little break for a commercial, and then I'll bring on Steve Rance, Congressional District candidate for District 9. Hang right.
I have spent my life serving others, first in uniform and now in my community. Spent my life serving others, first in uniform and now in my community. I am running for Congress to stand with President Trump to continue to secure the border, cut wasteful spending, and protect our freedoms. I am Steve Rance, and I am asking for your vote in Florida's 9th District, and I approve this message.
Welcome to Binford Chronicles, Steve.
Well, Joanne, thanks for having me. This is a joy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, out of all the forums I've been to, last night's forum was my favorite. It had the most candidates, and Thomas Augustus put together these questions that were challenging. They really put you guys to the test on what your knowledge was and where your values were and who was really going to answer to the people, work for the people. It was a great forum.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it myself as well. even as a candidate, it's important that we take the time to listen to each other and see what our views are, because we don't know who the winner's going to be coming out of this primary. My prayer is that it'll be me. I mean, I'm in the race to win it, of course, but I want to know the perspective and the avenues of the thinking of these people that want to represent us in this district. And it's important that each voter does their homework and comes out with a sound, solid, core decision. I know that, excuse me, I know I can vote for this guy because he stands for my values. And there has to be a level of confidence and trust that you have to have in these individuals. And that's what I try to display when I'm talking with people. I want them to see who I am, the real me. I'm not here to pull wool over anybody's eyes. I'm not here to, pretend that I know what I'm doing. And I was told the other night that I didn't know what I was talking about, I guess. But anyway, that's okay. That's tit for tat. I do know what I'm talking about. If I didn't, I wouldn't be in this race, because I want to be the representative of the people of District 9, because we've had lack of representation for such a long time. And that's what we need in Congress. We need a fighter, somebody that's going to get in there and do the job, not just warm the seat. And I tell people that all the time. I'm curious to hear your perspective of what transpired last evening.
Well, it was very good. A lot of those questions, a lot of people had to come up. There was one candidate that I think didn't really, I like those questions that you have to hear whether the candidate would give more money away, more foreign money away, money to Ukraine. How much money are we going to give to Ukraine? How much?
That's why I said maybe. That was a yes, no, or maybe question. And my thing is this: I'm not for endless wars, okay? And Ukraine has received a lot of dollars from the United States of America, and not just dollars, but equipment and other things, other assets. And there has to come a time when we say, okay, what's going to transpire here? And the polling that has just recently come out that we have done says that the American people are not interested in continuing to fund the Ukrainian war. They're not interested in that. And we have to look at this from a financial perspective and a national security perspective, okay? Yes, we need to continue. And Ukraine is we could at the present time, we can consider them an ally, okay? We're together. But we cannot continue to fund a war, and NATO and the European nations, they're not doing nothing. They're not doing their part to help with this. And
Ukraine's not even in NATO.
Yeah, and so we become.
And they're not supposed to be in NATO.
Check. So we can't be a blank check just to do these things. So, and I know the argument is, well, we'd rather have the war with Russia over in Ukraine than with Russia on American soil. I don't think we have to worry about that. I don't think that Russia is going to be on American soil with a war, but we just can't continue to throw frivolous dollars at this. We've got to come up with a solution. And I wish I had more information from behind the scenes, from, like I said the other night, from the Joint Chiefs of Staff and those that are, providing the president with the information. He gets information, intelligence information, and different things that we're not privy to as candidates to be able to make precise decisions. But I do know this. I know what the people are saying. And when you are elected as a representative, I don't go there as Steve Rance. I go there as a representative of the majority of the people, those that are making, those that are coming in saying, this is how I want you to represent us. And the voters that put us in those positions, we have a loyalty to them to represent them the way that they want to be represented. And we're going to talk more about this in this segment here, because we're going to get into, I presume, because it's a big topic for you, data centers and these things. So we hear all these arguments all the way around, and I know I'm going off on a rabbit trail here. I'm just trying to make the point that when you elect an individual to office, that individual is your representative. And one of the candidates last night on the stage mentioned, well, you shouldn't have to drive 2 hours to go get your service. You should only have to drive 2 minutes. Well, I told you a while back ago that I was making a statement and it was going to be broadcast probably at a forum, but I was going to let you know first. And that was as your next congressman in District 9, I will have a local office established in each county so that you don't have to drive. So this person got up last night and said, well, just the flip flop of that. He said, since I'm a local boy, you need to elect me so that you can only drive 2 minutes. I'll be right here in your county. Well, you're a representative for 7 counties, my friend.
Districts. Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, well, then somebody's going to drive.
That's the exact thought that went through my mind. Why does it make it fair for somebody from the northern part of the counties to have to drive all the way 2.5, 3 hours down to the southern? It makes no sense to me. This is why I've said all along, as your next congressman, I will have an office in every county. And then one of the other opponents last night kind of played off of what I said. And he said, nobody ever talked about this, Joanne, before. Okay. The words were out of my mouth. And this is what's neat about all these things. I'll go and I'll give a speech at a forum, and then I'll show up at the next forum, and the next guy's using exactly what I said. So I'm glad that what I say is duplicatable. And that's a good thing as a pastor, because when I would establish ministries and church ministries, to go back and see them doing the same things that I've established is a wonderful thing, because that's what ministry is about, is duplication. So if these guys want to duplicate what I'm saying, that's fine, but it shows that I'm the proven leader and they're a follower, and I want to be your leader.
So listen, before we get too deep in the other topics, I want to know how you're feeling about the homestead exemption for Florida.
Well, first of all, I'm a veteran, okay, and I came out of the service with an injury, and I have a leg injury that through the VA ratings has rated me as a 100% disabled American veteran. Okay, and by that, when I own one property, which is my homesteaded property, the property that I live in, is actually exempted from the homestead taxes. Now, I still have to pay the amenity taxes. I call those taxes, police, fire, those type of things. The valeriums. So they have a different name for them in Indiana, where I'm originally from. But anyway, those taxes are taxes that go to the local government to support the services that you receive. Okay, so one property, I own 2 properties. So one property is exempted, and the other property, because I can't claim it as a homestead, I have to pay full property value taxes on that property, because I can't claim the homestead exemption because I live in one. So, but anyway, I feel that when you own your home, you should own your home. There's no reason why you should have to pay what I call additional rent to the state so that you can stay in your home. And let me give you this example. I use my mom as an example, 84 years old. She doesn't need to be worried about property taxes right now, because she's at a point in her life where and she's a wonderful lady, let me tell you that. She's much smaller than me. Matter of fact, I've thought about bringing her to some of these events, but it's just the distance for travel, and I don't want to wear her out with those kind of things. But she doesn't need to worry about the rising cost of property taxes, which sometimes can be more than a mortgage payment. And she has end of life things that she needs to be worried about. But a lot of seniors in this country or in this state are worried about this, not being able to pay the taxes and then have the state come in and take that property from them that they spent their life purchasing and caring for, raising their families there, all of these things. And that doesn't need to be a worry. So I'm all for less taxes. And the way we get away with less taxes is stop spending. Stop spending money on things that the money doesn't need to be spent on.
Well, our county has a Children's Services Advisory Committee, and that is a committee that spends our tax dollars on nonprofit organizations. And would you take a wild guess at how much they spend a year on that?
Which county are you talking about?
Indian River County.
Indian River County. I don't know what the exact local budgets are for Indian River County, but I would say it was probably be in the high thousands.
No, we spent $3.4 million on
On
nonprofits.
nonprofits?
In our little
Well,
county of
I'm sure Blaze is going to be
170,000,
expecting these things.
we have 170,000 residents here. and they are looking to
I'd be
spend
curious to know what
up
all
to
these
4
nonprofits
million.
are. What?
They're looking.
Give me some examples of what this is being spent on.
They spend it on Learning Alliance. We have Crossover Mission. We have pregnancy centers. We have parental things. We have tutoring. We have they surround it all around children and families.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of duplicated, and it's kind of like, why are we spending all this money? We have a nonprofit right here called CareNet in Indian River County, and they do not use any government money. They, as a matter of fact, their donors are so satisfied with the work that they do, they were able to buy a building for that nonprofit. And the services that they offer, CareNet, is they are a Christian not Planned Parent, but a Christian facility that helps mothers who have had unexpected pregnancies. They give you a ultrasound. They give you parental counseling. They stay with the mother till their child is 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they offer, father services because they want to see families stay together. So if you're a young couple and you're having a child out of wedlock, you come in, they offer the mother counseling, they offer the young father counseling, and they stay with that family until that child's 4 years old.
Wow.
That's a nonprofit.
Well,
that's amazing.
And that's
All on their
what
own.
that's what the church does that I'm involved with. They have a pregnancy center, and they have other things, and they're not dependent upon local taxpayers' dollars to fund those programs.
And it's
So
because they're
I
doing a great job, and they're
I'm
showing results.
yeah I'm very surprised that that the dollar amount is that high for such a small
And
county.
it is. And then to top it all off, now they are doing professional development training for nonprofits to teach them how to come to our county and ask for grants.
Really? Wow.
Yes. Is that insane? It's like, we're giving away money, and guess what? We're going to help you figure out how to ask for it. It burns me. I'm like, what is happening?
Well,
Does
I
that
tell you,
slay you?
the again, these are areas where local officials need to step in and see what's going on here and kind of.
Do you think not the taxpayers should be paying for nonprofits?
No, I do not. I don't think the taxpayers should be paying for nonprofits, and there is a separation there for those type of things. NGOs are just that. They're a separate entity. They're given a status, and then they're to raise their own resources. And if there's federal grants and things like that are given away for certain programs or all that, then there's no problem with applying for those things. But I don't think they should be completely funded. You have to raise your own support. I know when my dad and we started a nonprofit. It was called the Logansport Community Service Center. My father found a man living under the bridge in a cardboard box, and this is when I first got out of the service. And it just broke his spirit, and he said, "Steve, we need to do something here. We need to." His name was Larry. He died at 56 years old. He had cancer. But he said, "Steve, we need to do something here." And you know what he did? He remodeled his garage to give this man a place to sleep, which at the time he didn't know it was against code to do that. So, but anyway, he remodeled the garage and gave this homeless man a place to sleep. And so we come up with the idea what we were going to do is we were going to start a concession stand business called the Logansport Community Service Center. And what we were going to do is raise funds from the local community so that we could help individuals in need. And that's what we set out to do. And he had to give it up the last few years of his life because of his health. But my dad loved that. I remember this stand was called the Ranch Wagon, and we would set up at the local fairs and festivities and all that. And we sold elephant ears, we sold hot dogs, we sold, at the time it was Pepsi products because the Pepsi plant was in our local community. So we sold all those things, and the lines would be long at the concession stand. And elephant ears were $1. Everybody else, all the other booths were raising their prices to $2 and $3 and $5 for an elephant ear. My dad said, no, the elephant ear will be $1. And our lines were always the longest lines. And then I just remember this one thing sticking out in my mind. A youngster come up to the window and wanted to order an elephant ear. And going to make me cry here a little bit. But they didn't have enough money. My dad said, come around here to the back door. And this little youngster come around to the back door and he said, here, this one's for you. That's the passion that my father had for the people in the community. I'm sorry.
They say community is the best way to contribute to help itself. When you put it in the hands of the government, the money ends up getting abused.
Exactly.
It's not accounted for. That's why we have all of this abuse going on in Minnesota, and Nick Shirley has exposed it because government, when you build government, there's less accountability. You've got too many departments, too many people, to have to manage something, and the accountability kind of falls to the wayside.
Those are the values. Those are the values that my father instilled into me. And so you're nailing it. You're nailing it right on the wall. It's everybody wants to get in and they want to make a name for themselves. They want to do something and all that. Joanne, I want to get in and I want to help the people. Isn't it time that we had a representative that really wants to help the people?
Yeah, to help our nations to stay focused where it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to be huge government. We got to give people back their lives so that they can control their lives. Just like businesses in our county, there's so many regulations that some of them have left the county to start their business in another county where the regulations are less. And
Right.
You've got to make it so that businesses can make money. If you make it more expensive for businesses to run, it's going to trickle down to the people. Just like housing, they have so many regulations in housing. It's more expensive to finish that house, and then by the time you're done with it, you need to recuperate some of your expenses, and that will be the person trying to buy it or rent it.
I understand that we have to have certain regulations in place because you get contractors in here that won't follow the guidelines and they'll build something that's a piece of junk and then it falls apart on the person that purchases it and then it just creates more expenses and more problems. So you have to have a certain amount of regulation. But the thing is you set the regulation and the standards and then get out of the way. We've got fees on top of fees on top of fees just so you can pay the fee. And these are crazy things. It doesn't need to be that way. Less government is always better. We are a nation governed by the people, and the people want to put people in place to protect those rights and those freedoms. But it seems like when we get people in, all they want to do is get to Washington and spend, and do all of these things. And it just drives up the cost. And we talked about inflation a little bit the other night. The more money that we print because we don't have enough money, that just drives up inflation. It just increases our national debt. And like I said before, we're going to get to a point to where I don't even know that we can pay for it now. We got to figure out how we're going to pay $40 trillion.
I don't think we can now because just the interest alone is we can't pay the interest alone.
It's
It,
crazy.
it is. It's very crazy. And with
We
the,
don't need
the
to be a
border.
bankrupted country. So
And the border issue, that's why it's such an important issue. And a lot of people are fighting against it. They don't really understand. Even realizing what the impact is, all these people coming across the border with no security. We're giving benefits in some states. Way back during the Biden era, I remember seeing some Facebook pages where they were kicking out vets from buildings to put these illegal aliens into those buildings. They were putting those people before our own people. So, I
that's
gotta
horrible.
it is. So I've got to ask you, what specific policies would you support to secure the southern borders? I mean, they're secure now, but we've got to continue to do that. And
The,
our
the border is secure and the numbers down as far as the illegal crossings, and that's what President Trump takes pride in because he was able to do that. The Biden administration says we can't do that. It's going to take all this money, all of this time. What's Trump come in and do? President Trump, he comes in as a leader and he knocks it out. And within the first 100 days, I think it was in the first few days, he had the border secure. So the border is secure, but the problem is the wall is not finished. Okay. So
yeah,
we need to finish the wall. Now, who's responsible? Who's responsible? Think about this for a minute. When President Trump was first president of the United States, he got the materials. It was all down there, ready to go. Biden
I
administration
remember.
comes in and they sell that material for pennies on the
That's
dollar.
right. Very
Pennies
good
on the
point.
dollar.
That's right.
So what did the Biden administration do? The Biden administration actually stole from the American people.
Yeah, because they were getting the big containers to try to protect the walls. Remember that? They were shipping the big containers and Biden went and removed the big containers because the Border Patrol was like, no, we need to have this border secured. And he did everything he could to open that border. It was just insane.
Well,
And now we're facing the birthright
My Orcas is the next one
citizenship.
that needs to be investigated. My Orcas is the next one that needs to be investigated because what he done on the border was treasonous, in my opinion. You
I
cannot
know.
allow these people to come in freely across the border.
Mm,
We have a gate, we have a door,
mm.
and people that are seeking asylum, they come through the door. The people that came across were diverted this way from the cartel. Okay, so you just it's just
You know,
where is the common sense when you
And
say
they were
when you
all
say that?
indentured to the cartel as well. They come over here and their families are getting threatened. You better traffic for me or travel with these drugs in your body because I will, take the life of one of your family members. And the worst part about it is all these people have come over and our Supreme Court has voted pretty much, I feel, against the nation with this birthright citizenship. What do you think about that?
Congress can step in and take care of that. Congress can pass legislation. We can write an amendment and just solve that problem lickety split. And that's what needs to be done. If the Supreme Court, since they dropped the ball on it, which I'm very disappointed in the Supreme Court for doing that, but they are the law of the land, and we're going to give respect where respect is due. But Congress now needs to act. This is where Congress can come in and flex their muscle and show their backbone and do what they said they were going to do. And that is stop birthright citizenship. Listen, we've nailed this. We've nailed it a long time ago, and we've been talking about this for a long time. But President Trump's been the only president to actually tackle it in my lifetime. So here's the thing: we have to stop it. Just because, and my wife, she's not a citizen. She's a foreign national. She's from Brazil. She's a green card holder. She's here legally. She says it herself. You know, you got two people on vacation. Let's just use a simple solution here. You got two people on vacation from another country, and this woman happens to get pregnant and or have her child here on American soil, and now this is an American citizen. Mom and dad are Chinese, mom and dad are Japanese, mom and dad are Filipino, who knows? But does that make them an American citizen? There's no
Yeah.
citizenship there at all. One
Hmm.
parent needs to be a citizen. One parent needs to be a citizen in order for that child to be able to claim citizenship. And then when that child reaches the age of 18, that child gets to choose which country they want to be a citizen of. The country of the one parent or the country of the other parent? So we've got things that need to be set in place, and Congress needs to act on this. Just because you have a child in this country doesn't make that child an American citizen. I am not for birthright citizenship. It's not a practicality for this country.
How do you feel about amnesty?
Oh, I'm 100% in opposition of amnesty. There should be no amnesty. Listen, you come into this country illegally. And let's just shift gears for this for just a minute. Maybe you came into the country legally. Okay? Maybe you were legal at one time. Your documents were in order, but you fell out of a legal status and you chose not to leave. Okay? Well, you chose not to leave, so what did you do? You broke the law of the land. You are now in violation of the Constitution of the United States of America. There is no amnesty. Amnesty does nothing but causes more problems for this country. You can't reward somebody for their criminal activity. Okay?
Yeah, that was the Jimmy Carter era when amnesty came into play. A lot of people, and I met during the No Kings parades or whatever they were having, those protests. I went out there to try to find out, like, why are these people doing this? And, I met a couple, and she was like, or a young lady, and she said, I'm here because my parents got amnesty, that we have a right to be here. This is our land, and blah, blah, blah. So I started to ask her about our system. I said, so do you understand what our republic is about? Do you understand our three branches? Do you vote? She said, I only vote for the president. I don't want to do anything with politics. I says, but that's how our nation runs. That's why you get to come here. That's why you got amnesty. It was because of our laws that allowed you to come here. You should be more involved.
And so what do they do when they get here? They what do? They fall into social services programs, which becomes it just becomes a burden on the financial part of our government, because one, we have to provide social services for them. We have to provide public health care for them. We pay for education. Why should an illegal that's here jump in line of an American citizen?
Mm-hmm.
Why should they be put first? We've got people that are looking for jobs and they can't, the job market, we hear this, Joanne, we hear this argument all the time. Well, we can't get Americans to do this job. So they're filling those jobs. They're paying
tax. It's not true. They can't get Americans to do it for pennies on the dollar, where they're hiring these foreigners for pennies on a dollar, and there's 10 of them living in one little tiny place. Here we are growing up with the dream of freedom and the dream of the American dream, and they want us to work for these people that have lived in a third world, work under circumstances of people who come from a third world country that haven't grown up in this free place of America. And now you want us to lower our standards so that you can make more money off of us. And that's what it is they're not paying Americans. They're getting their business to grow off the backs of people that came from these third world countries that don't know any better. And they shouldn't be here because they're not helping. What
problem did you just describe for the American company or job that's doing that? They are stealing from the government.
Mm-hmm. And they're stealing our American dream because they're
not paying. They're not because they're getting away with not paying a certain amount of taxes for an employee as an employer. So there were I don't know, I don't even want to say it, but people need to do their homework. There are 3 or 4 business people up there on that stage, and you just need to find out if they've ever employed illegal aliens. That's a question that needs to be asked. Have you ever employed?
If you're in construction, fencing,
exactly.
We had a guy get his fence put up next to us, and it went up, and the guys did a good job, but none of them spoke English. And my husband was like, he walked over because we need a fence, and he's talking with our neighbors, the contractor out there. The contractor's American like you and me, and he's like, oh yeah, I could do it for this. So that's cheap. And I was like, holy cow, he's charging us what it would cost just for materials. There's no way. And when I went out to my yard, they're all talking Spanish and everything. I'm like, they're not legal. There's no way they are legal. And and then I asked him, I said, did you get a permit? And he's like, no, we're just doing a repair. It's a repair. So I was like, there you go, man. That's our problem.
Well, it
He's
wasn't
making
long
all the
ago.
money.
It wasn't long ago when Tom Holman brought a group of ICE agents in. I think it was close to the villages, if not in the villages, and some of the contractors there got in trouble because they had employed individuals that were not employable. And it's a problem, and that's in the immigration papers. When you file the documentation, my wife couldn't work. She couldn't work until she got her work permit through the immigration services, through USCIS. You see, these laws and these procedures are in place. The problem is they're not being enforced, and they're not being enforced properly, and they're not being enforced unilaterally. And this is what needs to be done. So this is when I talk about immigration reform. We have to have the proper people in place enforcing these things so that we can put our attention on processing legal immigration. And what President Trump is trying to do with ICE is get the criminal illegals out of here so that we're not spending so much money on the illegal side, but we can get back to doing business and processing immigrants into this country the proper way and keep the expenses down where they need to be. So,
Steve, you're kind of like experiencing what it's like to go through the process through your wife to become a legal citizen. Why does it take so long? What is that? Why is that process so long? Because your wife, it's been taking years, right?
well, the reason why it's taken so long now is because the system is just infiltrated with all kinds of junk and garbage. You got people that are filing through the system, and we've got lawyers in here that are cluttering up the system. But you got people in here that, like I said, they can't focus on the legal side of it so much because they have to focus on the illegal side. And it seems like now that the illegal is taking precedent over those that are coming through the legal way. And then there's a vetting process. There's a lot of criminal activity going on out here in immigration, so they have to be careful. It's not a stroke of the pen where somebody gets just to get to come in, but you have to be vetted. You have to be verified. You have to prove the legality of it. You've got people in countries that they buy a marriage. They pay $10,000 and they buy a marriage. They come through the process, and then once they get their green card, then they get divorced and go their separate ways. And this guy got $10,000 for doing that. So there's situations out here like that. So there's a vetting process. Everything needs to be vetted. And so you got to make sure that that the marriages that are happening are legal marriages and not just something for earning income and when the cartels send people over, they get big money for that too. So it can be a racketeering system. So there's corruption.
I thought it was taking so long because they wanted them all to go to Hillsdale College first to learn about our Constitution and our history.
Well, that's true. If you're going to go for your citizenship, that's a whole other process.
Yeah, you should be a student of Hillsdale College and graduate with the full knowledge of our founders and Federalist Papers, and that would be really making an American of somebody coming over here.
That's true.
They would
I'm
be
still
able
trying
to
to learn
quote Thomas
Portuguese.
Jefferson. I mean, I was hoping that's what I was going to hear. Like, they have to go through college. They've got to learn our history. They've got to, be introduced to Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and all the Federalist Papers and the meaning of those. And but people come over and they have no idea that we have 3 branches of government.
Well, I know it. Hey, did you see that segment? Not to shift gears on this or something. There was a sheriff, a county sheriff that was being interviewed or whatever in a deposition by the Congress. and the congressman asked him about the three branches of government, and he couldn't name them. He couldn't name
Oh,
them all. But
heaven's
here,
sakes.
you could probably YouTube that and find that segment. But it was kind of
Oh,
comical to sit there and watch that. And then I kind of felt sorry for the guy because he wasn't educated in that area. But
well, you know what it is, as Americans, we grew up so free, we take life for granted, and we take for granted that this is going to be wonderful forever, and it's never going to go away. Some people can't ever imagine socialism in the United States. They just can't, you know,
we
but it's
that's
coming.
another Trojan horse that we got to be very keen and aware of, and we better have our eyes on New York and watching what's going on up there
Mm,
because everything sounds good when it's free. Okay, I like free stuff. I love it when the restaurants, you can buy one get one free meal and all this kind of stuff, and this is free and that's free. But there's always a cost. There's nothing ever free. Freedom is an
it's
expression that we
freedom is
use.
never free.
It's never free. Somebody somewhere along the line has to pay the price. No matter what avenue we're talking about, somebody had to pay the price. And if we introduce socialism into this country, which is nothing more than communism, we're not going to experience freedom in America as we know it. And we need to elect representatives in here that are going to hold true to our Constitution and not allow these things to happen.
Mm,
And if we allow Democrats to be elected into this is a serious midterm election. I don't
it's
think
very
people really
serious.
understand this right now, but this one is really serious
Hmm.
because we're talking about the direction of the future of the United States of America. And they say, oh, well, we hear that every election year. No, no, listen. You've seen what we had in the Biden administration and how horrible it is and the things that we're having to try to fix right now. And I applaud President Trump because he's a knowledgeable man. You know, they want to paint this guy as a horrible guy. I've never met President Trump face to face. I've been at some rallies, I've been close, never shook his hand, never had a conversation with him. But I am true to the America First agenda, and I am true to his leadership. People ask me this all the time, Joanne. I get it everywhere. How can you be a pastor and support the president, support Trump? Well, I tell people this. This is just simple for me. It might not be that simple for you, but it's just simple for me. President Trump doesn't know me, and I don't know him. I don't agree with President Trump on everything. And if he knew me, he wouldn't agree with me on everything. That's our individuality. I'm married. Um, my wife, she doesn't agree with me on everything. Shh, don't tell her, but I don't agree with her on everything either. But at the
She's
end of
always
the
right.
I hope she's not there. But at the end of the day, we have a marriage to maintain. We have a family to raise. We've got grandchildren. We have these things. This is the structure. And so we have to hold it together, even though we don't always agree. We have to agree to disagree and stand in unity. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And we have to be in unity because he has a country to govern. And we've got to stand behind the President of the United States. This man has been the only man in my lifetime to keep his promises and do what he said he was going to do. He hasn't said anything new from the pulpit of the United States of America. He said it in all of his rally speeches. We knew exactly what we were getting when we elected Donald Trump. And this is why we elected Donald Trump, because our country, was going to hell in a handbag, and we needed a disciplinarian, somebody in office that could fix it and get it done right. And this man has proven that he can do that. Love him or hate him, he's doing his job. He's doing exactly what he was elected to do. And I support and I stand with President Donald Trump.
Now, we have, like you said, we have a lot of issues in the United States. And one of the issues that I've touched on, I even got, I can get myself in trouble over it, but is Islam in the United States. And I feel very strongly that it shouldn't be here. And I'm watching the things that are going on in states like Texas, Patterson, New Jersey, New York City. Mandami, what everything that's going on there. He literally the district that Little Italy doesn't even exist to him. He took it off the map.
Right.
And he's doing a lot of things that are for his agenda, and people are not seeing Islam. Some people are not really seeing Islam as a threat because they're not China. And I know one of the candidates on that forum last night spoke heavily about the threat of China. And I understand China is our enemy, and they were part of the whole COVID stuff, and they will try to put us in war if they can. However, we have a militant Taliban making its home on our soil, and we're ignoring it. Why? Because they don't have technology like China. They don't need it. They have our people at their hand, right in front of them. They've already set people on fire. They've already assassinated daughters. And I mean, when will they take it seriously? And I just find it difficult to swallow when people are not recognizing that this is a real threat in our United States, because it's right here on our land. We have never seen war on our land except the ones that we created in the Civil War. And I don't believe our people in today's day and age are as unified as they were in the 1700s to have a civil war. People will run, people will hide, people will turn their head. They will not join in and fight like they did in the Civil War. That's not going to happen in today's, at least in my opinion, I don't believe that.
Well, Islam in itself, the radical Islam it's not a religion. And our country needs to come to grip on this. It's not a religion. It's a cult. It's a movement. And it's a movement to infiltrate our system so that they can come and take over America. And you can see all of these things starting to happen. We can look at what's happening. Just look at New York right now. Okay, Islam. Right now, you got this Mandami. He's bringing in socialistic practices. Okay, which is communism. And you bring Islam into the picture too. These are groups. These are groups that want to overthrow the government of the United States of America. They want to take over. And so, directly, when we call it a religion, Congress can't get involved in that because you can't pick a religion in the United States of America. Our Constitution strictly prohibits that. Yeah, and so, but we can have Sharia-free America, and there's a Sharia-free American caucus that was established by the House Republicans. I think it was Keith Self, and I know Chip Roy is a part of that. But this caucus seeks to counter what it describes as the spread of Islamic ideology, and it's there to protect the principles of the Constitution. And we need members of Congress that are going to do just that. Restricting religious arbitration. The No Sharia Act aims to explicitly restrict U.S. courts from enforcing judgments and decrees and even private arbitrations that rely heavily on Islamic law. Florida has already passed legislation that there's no Sharia law in the state of Florida. So we have to have people that are willing to do this because Islam is not a religion. If we look at this seriously, they want to destroy America. And it's like this. Let's take it on the religious spectrum here for
everyone
just a minute.
in the entire world to submit to their Allah.
Exactly. So if we take this to the spiritual realm for just a moment, Satan, how does he destroy? Satan he destroys because he's seeking like a lion to destroy. How does he do that? He attacks the family. Okay, he gets in there and he attacks the family and he destroys the fabric of the family. Well, Islam is the same way. It's going to get in, and it's destroying the very core fabric of this country. And we have to prevent that. We have to protect the Constitution of the United States. We have to protect our laws. We have to protect our freedom. And we cannot recognize this as a religion. We have to recognize it as a cult. And we have to move in that direction before it's too late. Because I honestly believe that Islam is a Trojan horse in this country, and we have invited them in. Don't we
We
learn from
have, and
history at
we've
all?
given them so many resources. I mean, they are swearing on the Quran for office seats, and we're allowing them in these seats. Should we have policies that prevent Islam from representing the American people? I mean, how can you be um, part of Sharia and the Quran and believe in all that, which is antithetical to our Constitution? So how can these people, how can we accept that they would be able to
Because
represent the
we've
people
allowed
and the
tolerance.
Constitution?
We in government, the people that have been in places of authority in government, have been tolerant to accept these ideologies. And we
Mm.
have to have the backbone to stand up against it and say no. And that's why I say, listen, I was told by two people sitting on this 7-member, I'm calling it a 7-member board now, the guys that are running for this district.
This district
Two of
of
them
the
told
seven.
me, yeah, two of them told me that I should stay in the church as a pastor and leave public office for politicians. I'm not going to name names, but I said, go back and read the Old Testament. Let's start there. Then I want you to jump into the New Testament and see
Was
how God has
founded
orchestrated
by
government.
our country was founded by religious men.
Exactly. It makes no sense to me. It just, this all, so in my mind, there's two right there that are not worthy to serve in
Mm.
Congress because they don't have the backbone to stand up for it. And you got to be careful. You got to watch who we're electing and putting into positions of authority and positions of leadership because we're going to be in the same boat, if not a worse boat, than what we've already been and what we've already had. And we can't have that anymore. We need Christian, in my opinion, we need good, godly men in positions of leadership. Why? Because of the alternative. If you don't have godly men in leadership, you have ungodly men or women in leadership. And I'm sorry, I'm a believer, so I'm not sorry. But as for me and my house, I want to serve the Lord. Now, that doesn't mean that I take my religious views and principles and force them upon somebody else. But no, my decisions are guided by my Christian values. Okay? So the decisions that are being made are the same decisions that have founded this country because it's from the biblical view. We are a Christian nation. We were founded on Christian principles. And we've gotten away from that. Why? Because of tolerance. We've allowed it. Our churches are
We've
to
gone
blame
from
for
being
this
a
too.
melting pot to being a salad bowl. You don't have to assimilate, just come on over. You know? So, Steve, what do
Reminds
you
me,
think? I wanted to ask
go
you,
ahead.
do you believe the current counterterrorism policies are sufficient to address the radicalization we're seeing?
I think we need to enforce them more. And I think that a good group of legislators need to get together and put together some principles and some practices that will really define what we need to be doing. So I could pull those up and look at all of the things that are in place. But like I said, that's why Chip Roy and the others have put these caucuses together so that they can fight this kind of stuff. And they're adamant about this. My friend Randy Fine, we call him the Hammer because he drops the hammer, and he, he's like Trump. I don't know if I'm sure you have. You watched some of the Trump rallies when somebody stood up and caused an emotion, and Trump would say, "Get them out of here." Well, Randy and I, we kind of got the same idea on this. Get them out of here. Get them out of here. I use the philosophy of this agriculture background. When I grew up, we had my grandparents and my parents, we planted gardens, corn, all kinds of things, vegetables out there. And what was one of our chores or responsibilities was to go out and pick the weeds out of the garden. And our government's the same way right now. We haven't been weeding the garden. And if we don't get the weeds plucked out of this garden, it's going to choke out the good plants. And that's what's going to destroy us. It's going to kill the garden. So we've got to have just a simple mindset. We need to weed the garden.
Well, we need to weed our elections too, because I think all of these people coming in and these illegals and then these radical states that we have now, they're choking out our elections. We can't
I
have
agree.
free and fair elections. And, the SAVE Act, and we've got all this going
The
on.
SAVE Act is something that we shouldn't even be talking about. I've talked about this before, and I stand firm on it. We have to protect our elections. We need free and fair elections. And for the Democrats to say that it would be disenfranchising the women voter if we had somebody have to get an ID and they can't produce documentation for an ID, they can produce documentation. We
Oh,
can find documentation. You can find something. There has to be a trail. This is 2026, okay? The year's 2026. We can find some sort of document. The problem is, what they want is cheated elections. They don't want somebody to have to show an ID so they can go in and still cast that vote for the person,
mhm.
give them all the free stuff, the socialism stuff. And that's not what this country was founded on.
What election reforms do you believe would increase public confidence in elections?
Election reform?
Hmm.
Well, I think that we need to limit mail-in voting. Those paper ballots that come out, they need to be restricted to only those that are in military, serving abroad, those that are sick, confined to an institution and can't get out, some sort of a disability that would prevent that individual from going to a polling place and casting their vote on election day. You've got countries across this world, they got to go and put their finger in purple dye and go and put their thumbprint down in order to vote. And then they come
Yeah,
back and they show
I know that.
because they vote in person. You have to
Your
vote in
finger for
person.
days.
Yes. So you know that person voted. So you got somebody walking around in your country and they don't have a purple finger, they didn't vote. So what? They didn't have an ID? I don't know. But the thing is, if we want to secure our election process, we need voter identification. I told this story the other day and I'll tell it again. I went to the Home Depot. I'm a 20-year veteran of the Air Force. I went in to buy some products at the Home Depot and I wanted my military discount because that's what they offer. Okay? They offer veterans that serve the country a military discount. So I get up there and I put the information into the machine and the lady comes over to approve it and she says, "Well, sir, you have to show me your ID." I said, "What do you mean? I don't have it on me." "Well, then I can't give you the discount." Well, if I couldn't get the discount at the Home Depot because I didn't have my ID, then why are you showing up at the election site and voting without an ID for the highest office and offices of this country? It's ridiculous to me. It makes no common sense. What did I do? I went out to the car where my wallet was. I left it out there. I got my ID. I come back in and I got my discount. Why? Because I showed my ID. So if you want to vote in this country, you need to be a United States citizen and you need to show proof of that citizenship with an election ID. And you can be issued an election ID. And that's where I stand on that. We need free, fair, and legal elections, not this padded stuff. Not throwing these paper ballots in by the truckload, and at 3 o'clock in the morning we go from a President Trump being elected to a Joe Biden being elected. And how in the heck can you have more votes in this country than you have registered voters? There's another one. So don't tell me these elections weren't rigged. Don't tell me these elections weren't done wrong. And yes, I do think that President Trump was elected the first for his second term, and that the election was a fraud. But I'll tell you what, I thank God. I trust God in his sovereignty. And I am glad that we have President Trump now for these
Oh,
4 years,
thank goodness, yes. I mean,
and
he's
not
not perfect, but
Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. Okay?
he's the best we had out there, to get in
Yeah.
there and finish up what he started. And,
So
I feel
God
like the
knows what
time
he's
is going
doing.
by fast. I
Well, it
feel
is.
like, there's
Look
so
at what
much
he's
to
been able to
cover.
accomplish, Joanne. Yeah. Look at this. Look what he's been able to accomplish without having all those lawsuits thrown upon him. What could he have done in his first 4 years to advance this country if the Democrats weren't so Trump deranged syndrome to try to get him thrown out of office and go through all these impeachments and everything and
Mhm.
just let the man do what he was elected to do? So I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, but I get
No, that's
excited
okay.
and
I
passionate
know you
about
get
something.
excited. I like that. I like when you get fired up.
But I guess it's entertaining. I don't.
It's because you're speaking from the heart and you're speaking from your passion. I mean, America is the best place to live. And if we're not willing to fight for it and sacrifice for it and work for it, that's why I ran for county commission in my county, because I could really relate to the working class and I could see what's happening, that they get rid of trade schools. Not every kid goes to college. College can be a waste of time and it can make you poorer because you've got these student loans at these interest rates that you can't even pay off. My daughter went to school for forensic psychology, and her student loan is close to 7%. She doesn't even own a mortgage. She's not making enough money to pay off the interest. I mean, it's a battle for the students. It's a battle in America, and there's so much going on that we just need to get it all back. My favorite time in life was the 80s.
Yeah.
Was the
I grew up
80s.
in the
You
80s
earned
too.
good money. Your employers looked at you as an asset. They paid you overtime. I remember when I worked in the 80s, I wanted to work hard for my employer. Why? Because I knew I was leaving with a better paycheck.
Do you remember what the minimum wage was when you started working? Do you remember what your minimum wage was?
I want to say it was $4.75, something like that. It wasn't even $5 yet.
I think mine was $3.15 an hour when I started. But when I was young,
You must be older than me.
I'm 59. I'm 59 years old. So, well, whenever you started, your minimum wage had to be about $3.25 or somewhere in there. But we grew up in a time of values. When I was a kid, living in the neighborhood, my dad had an injury. He worked for Chrysler Corporation and he did the transmissions, and he slipped and fell on an oil slick, and something fell down and some things landed on him and cracked his lower spine. So he started out with a deterioration of the lower spine. I guess I can talk about this without violating HIPAA laws because he's no longer living. But anyway, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and we didn't have money as kids growing up. And our steak was bologna sandwiches a lot of times, and I remember standing in lines to get government cheese. I don't know if you recall that or not, but we did some
block of
things.
cheese, everybody
The
froze
big
it
block
in
of
their freezer.
yeah. So, but anyway, those were the days. But anyway, I started out in the neighborhood mowing grass for neighbors and shoveling snow. I'm from Indiana, so we had a lot of snow. So that's how I started making money as 10 years old. And then I got a paper route. My parents let me have a paper route, and I started delivering newspapers for the Ferris Tribune. And Iris Ashby, when she hired me, she said, I got a typewriter for my birthday or Christmas present or something. But anyway, I had one of those little typewriters, and I took all of my little cards for each one of my people, and I typed their name and their address on those cards. Because when you got a newspaper in those days and they paid their paper tab, you give them the 2 tickets for the 2 weeks that they paid. And then we had to take the money and go down to the bank and turn the money in, stand in line at the bank teller and turn the money in based upon your paper route number. Okay? So, and then I graduated from that and I started a job at McDonald's. All right? So I was a burger flipper and a French fry maker at McDonald's. And then I joined the delayed enlistment program. And after I graduated high school, I graduated in 1985 at 17 years old. I had to wait 1 month and 1 day before I could depart to go to boot camp. And that's what I did. I went off to boot camp and gave the Air Force 20 years of my life. Went to community college in the Air Force, received my education through there. And then I'd done some other, back to Bible college when I got out of the Air Force and studied missions, worked for the Department of Corrections, the Juvenile Department of Corrections, to all the male juveniles that went through the court system and needed to go through rehabilitation would come through the diagnostic facility and through my office, and then we would define which type of facility they needed to go to for rehabilitation and correction. And then that's when I accepted the call of God in my life, and then went back to Bible college, studied missions, and then got involved in church ministry. And I've been doing that ever since and all along. Kind of a Reader's Digest version there of Steve. But my passion has been this. I've always had the heart to serve others, to serve people. I remember in the license branch, the ladies would ask me, Steve, why do you always got a smile on your face and a spring in your step, and you're always humming a song or something like that? And I would just tell them, I said, well, it's because I got Jesus in my heart. So that's where I'm at as an individual. And I might not be the smartest guy. As they say, I might not be the brightest crayon in the box, but at least I'm a crayon.
So, Steve, what did you do in the Air Force? And were you enlisted, or were you on reserves?
No, I was a non-commissioned officer. When I first joined the Air Force, I started out in the Transportation Division. And my job in the Transportation Division, after I went to basic training boot camp, was at Lackland Air Force Base. And then I went to my AIT, or my schooling, at Shepherd Air Force Base. But my job was to counsel military members on the movement of themselves and their property from one installation to another, and make those arrangements to have that move go smoothly for them. So I started out in the Transportation Division doing that. And then when you're in the military, they allow you to change careers.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that's how you move up too.
Yeah, that's how you can gain some rank. So through that, I was offered a position in base supply. So I took that position in base supply and got to know some people there. And there's kind of two people in the military, maybe three, that you want to know. And here's the three main people in the military. You want to know the cook, you want to know the finance officer, and you want to know the person in base supply, so that you can get the things that you need while you're in there. But anyway, I did base supply for a while, and then someone said that they needed some help in a career field in one of the divisions there, to build pallets and load C5s and C130s. So I switched over to air cargo. So I was an air cargo specialist and built pallets. And during that time, we were able to ship these supplies to the troops during Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. Then I actually did 2 years of recruiting, and I had a leg injury from my time in building the pallets and all that, and I ended up in the security forces and retired my career through the security forces. So.
Well, thank you for your service. Everybody plays a role, and they say some people are the boots on the ground, and some people are the mechanics that make everything available.
Well, I told you my dad.
Job.
My dad wasn't doing very well. He had health issues. He died when he was 56 years old, and I did. Yeah, he was young. I always told everybody, I'm 59 now, and going up to 56, I said, if I hit 56, anything after that's my gravy years, not my golden years. So I'm in my gravy years right now, everybody. So,
but anyway, golden yet, but gravy.
Not golden, I'm gravy. So steak and gravy, you got to have gravy with your steak. But anyway, I was going somewhere with that, but that's all right. We'll catch up with it in a minute. So many stories race through my mind when I get to talking about yesterday and the things.
So what's your favorite takeaway story from your military experience?
Oh my goodness. You might cause me to pause here for a minute. I worked with there's quite a few. I'll tell you this. As you could tell, I got a great personality. I try to have fun. I love to have fun. I got a serious side to me, okay? And when I'm serious. Generally, when I'm serious because, one, I'll tell you, these words will come out of my mouth. Just now you're getting to know a little bit deeper about Steve. if we're in a conversation and something's going on and we're joking around and all that, and then it turns into something serious, I put the pause on and I say, listen, I'm serious. I'll tell you, listen, I'm serious because there's something serious that needs to be said. But I like to joke. I like to, as you seen the lightning speed round that we had last night, I just threw out a few quirky things in there just to lighten the load. But people have to know that you're real, okay? And life is too short to be a fuddy-duddy in everything. But we do have to be serious about a lot of things. And right now we have to be serious about the direction of this country. Well, I was going to tell you this. I was staff sergeant, and I was supervisor in this division there in supply, and the guys thought that they were going to do a prank on me. Well, base supply takes care of packaging things and all that. So my commander, he always enjoyed. I always wore my blue shirt with. Of course, my rank was on my shoulders here, but with a blue tie. So, and he would always come up at the most inopportune time. I would be on the phone, and he would take the scissors, grab my tie, and just cut it off right there at the little, just leave me a little nub. And so that started kind of some pranks to go on in the office. So the guys out in the warehouse, they decided one time that they were going to do a really good prank on me. So they held me down in my office chair and they shrunk wrapped me in the shrink wrap, and then they put me out in the parking lot. Now the sun's beating down and you're in the shrink wrap, and they left me there, and I had to take my finger. These turkeys, I'll never forgive them for that. I had to take my finger and just start digging at that and get a hole going so I could get out of that shrink wrap. By the time I was out of there, I was soaking wet. But, we always had good times. And I would never trade my years of military service because of the people that I was able to meet, the friendships that I was able to make, and the service that we were able to do for our country. And it's just something that is just etched into you eternally for all your life. I go to the VA and I talk with men there that have sacrificed so much for their country to get us to where we are today, and I thank each and every one of them because everybody, look, everybody. Even the 7 that's on this stage running for this District 9 congressional seat, everybody has a value. Every person has a value. And a lot of times we don't look for that value in somebody. We're so easy to judge and just, like I said the other day, throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I try to be as kind and as nice as I can to everybody that I meet. And I try to look for the best in everybody. Now, sometimes you come along somebody and it's just not possible. There's just something there, and you just rub each other the wrong way whenever you're around each other. And sometimes it's best just to depart each other and go about your own business. Paul and Barnabas had to do that in the Bible, okay? They had to go their own directions. Both of them were believers, but both of them had to go different directions because there was something between them that just rubbed each other the wrong way, and they couldn't serve together. And it's the same way. You got to find the place in life where you can serve. And don't forget about serving everybody. It's okay to say hello to people. It's okay to shake somebody's hand. It's okay to spread a little kindness. There's nothing wrong with that. Just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't mean that you have to hate them. That's where we're at right now. That's why we're experiencing Trump derangement syndrome. Now, I'm going to tell you where I was going back a minute ago. I had received orders to go to Okinawa, Japan. And my dad was really sick, and I had hesitations about leaving the States and even though going over to Japan because I just felt that I needed to be closer to home than that. And so, but everybody that you passed up a beautiful assignment. Japan's beautiful and all. And I've never been there to this date because I don't want to go because I kick myself in the rear for not going.
Well, it's true because my husband did 25 years in the Navy, and he ended his career as a senior chief. And he traveled to a lot of places because when we first got married, he says, "What do you want to do?" And I says, "I want to travel." And he's like, "Well, I want to see the United States. I've traveled everywhere, but I haven't done a lot of traveling in the United States." And so I asked him, "What was your favorite country?" And wouldn't you know, it was Japan. And he
Is that
loves
right?
their food. He loves Japan. That was his favorite place to be. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So
I
it's got
always
to
said
be
I was
true.
going to
All
catch
those
a
guys,
hop. I
it's
was
got to
just
be
going to
true.
catch one of those military hops and go over there and, you
Hmm.
know, experience it. But we'll see what
Yeah, no,
happens.
he loved it there. So listen, just before we close up, I gotta ask you because you know I was going to ask you this. You mentioned it when we first started. Is data centers and flock cameras? Because I nobody talked about flock cameras and data centers. You know, how are they going to work together? And the danger of data centers. Everybody wants to look at data centers like they're a wonderful thing, but nobody's really seeing what damage they can do and to our freedoms as well.
Well, AI data centers, they cause major environmental harm. And these aren't things that are being talked about. They require massive energy consumption, uh, heavy fresh water for use for cooling them. Uh, one of the opponents here on the platform, when we were talking about things, said, "Oh, we need to put data centers in space." Oh, well, maybe that's an option. I don't know. Maybe
That's
they
an
can go up
Elon
there.
Musk task.
Yeah,
If
but
anybody could do it, Elon could
I
do
don't know.
it.
I don't know where they're going to get their water to cool them down. They're going to have to figure something else out. But they I'm not the A1 educated guy on data centers. There's still more to learn, but in the present state and what they have to offer, you got to understand this as a representative. Okay, as a representative, when something comes to the table, it's my job to come back to the constituents and have a town hall meeting and say, "This is what's being proposed. What do you think about it?" All right? Why? Because I represent you. We don't get that. When you get to go to a town hall meeting, what are they doing? They're telling you what they're doing. They're not asking you for permission to do something to the land that they own and live on.
Mhm,
So, see, we got the cart before the horse here. All right?
mhm,
It's not my Congress. It's we the people, our Congress. And it's our district. And so, as a leader, as a congressman, it's my responsibility to come and talk to the constituents, do the polling, do the research, and then present it. And if the people say yes, then we pursue it. If the people say no, then we either come back and we explain it differently and get them to get on board, or who do we represent? The people. So that may sound too common, but that's what it is. It's called common sense. It's the easy approach to government. Government is not here to tell us what to do. We are the government. We forget that a lot of times. We are the government. And what President Trump has done is to try to put the power back into the hands of the people. That's why he's given states the rights to do these things and get the federal government out of the way.
mhm.
And there's no reason why we as congressmen and senators should be dictating to our constituents what we're going to do. We need to be taking what the constituents want done back to DC. So
So,
we've got the channels crossed here.
Steve, what do you think about a lot of people are commenting that the data centers are like big hubs for surveillance and the flock cameras and the Exxon cameras that are going up everywhere. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I know some of the cameras have been used for good. We hear the stories. We don't hear all the stories, but we hear where, like, cameras out on the highways were used to catch people that were trafficking children. If we didn't have cameras, we wouldn't have probably caught the individual that shot Charlie Kirk. So I'm not saying that we have to delete all the cameras, okay? I'm saying that cameras shouldn't be everywhere because we, the people, deserve our privacy
Mhm.
and we deserve our dignity. And that's what makes us a free country. We are a private people. You don't need to know all my business, and I don't need to know all your business. All right. But if a person's breaking the law, then they've overstepped that. They've overstepped their level of freedom, and now they come before the rules of justice. So what we've seen and experienced is a lack of control for the use of these things. We've seen we just seen it here in a recent report where somebody working in one of it was right here in Florida, I thought, using the equipment to spy on their ex. Um,
Yeah, it was a law enforcement officer that did that,
Law
I
enforcement
believe.
officer, yeah.
I
So
believe if
we,
I'm wrong, guys, let me know.
well, no, I think you're right. I don't think she was a law enforcement officer. I just think she worked in the facility. But
Mm.
and then there's abuse. Now there's abuse with everything. Okay, so we have to have certain rules and stipulations put in place so that we know our boundaries. I'm a military guy, and we have parameters. We had to guard the airplanes. Why? Somebody breached that perimeter, then they were in trouble. They were in a place where they ought not should have been. And we live in a free society, but that doesn't mean that we can go anywhere and everywhere we want. And that doesn't mean that we can do anything and everything we want to do. If my freedom is infringing upon your freedom, then it's no longer freedom, is it?
Nope, it's
Because you
no
no
longer
longer have
freedom.
your
That's
freedom.
right.
No longer
Hmm.
freedom. And so when these cameras are deliberately spying on people, and I think I mentioned this in one of my programs, one of the pod segments that we had before. But when I was a young kid, it was a satellite. It wasn't a star. It was a satellite, and it was straight up from my grandmother's house, and she lived out in the country. No street lights or anything. So when the stars come out at night, you could see the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, and all the other dippers that were there. But anyway, she would always point up to that brightest light, and she would say, "They're spying on us." And we always thought Grandma was what they say in Brazil, loco. We thought she was crazy at sometimes. But you know what?
Local.
Yeah, that craziness has come to a reality, has it not? There are, we
My
talk, we talk
gosh.
about yeah, we talk about Elon, and he's the one that's into all this technology and all these things. And I praise for our military would not have the capabilities to do what we do to protect our country if we didn't have advanced technology in our military. And this is generally how things get passed out to the public. The military had the drones far, far, far long before drones were introduced as toys to kids. Okay,
Well, it was
so
the internet that started through the military, through the it wasn't a private business. It was government.
it was government. So what we have to do is we have to have stipulations and limitations. Things have to be limited so that they don't infringe upon your rights and my rights. I, you know, I, I can't. I don't like all these cameras. You know,
Well, I don't like mass
sometimes
surveillance. Mass
it,
surveillance is it decapitates your freedom. Well, what did they do
you
in
know,
Canada when people were protesting? They shut down their bank accounts. They could
well,
tell who
and
they
that's
were
the
in the
thing.
streets and
When
froze their
when government
accounts.
has that kind of authority and control, that's exactly what they can do. They can shut you off. They can shut you out, and then you have nothing. We're back to the Minutemen. And so we have to protect our individual freedoms. And this is what it boils down to. There again, we have to have limitations, and Congress has to be they have to be the driving force of this. We have to sit down and we have to write legislation that protects the people from these things, gives them certain limitations. But no, there should not be cameras on every street corner. There should not. I don't even like it that my neighbors have cameras that could shine in my window and see me sitting in my living room. They showed me that, and I said, "What? You're
So
crazy."
wave have your pants on now.
Oh, I'm telling you right now. Well, if they see that, I guess that's a show for them.
So, Steve, what issue is the most important issue for you right now that you see from possible constituents from us in District 9 now?
I think we need to cut out wasteful spending. I think we got to get our finances of the country under control, and in order to do that, what that's going to do, it's going to open up more doors for us to entice manufacturing jobs to come into the district, so that people have employment, and so that they can be competitive in the workforce and have money to do things. But we have to cut the wasteful spending. We've got to get a hold of this. They're doing it at the state level. Blaze is doing a fantastic job here in the state of Florida
Blaze
with.
Angolia.
Yeah, he is. He's
Yep. In case
tackling.
people didn't know who he was, Blaze Angolia. He's a good guy.
He is a good guy. Him and I, we've talked many times, been to many events together. And I applaud him for what he's doing. And he's not afraid to make arrest. And he's done that. You know, when he finds the fraud, he calls them out and he makes the arrest. And that's leadership. And this is what we need. Again, this is what we need in Congress. So, folks, I'm not here. I'm not here to sell you on something. You know, you got the people out here in radio land and TV land. You got some decisions to make. I might not be your choice. If I am your choice, thank you. I appreciate that. But we've got to elect people that are going to do what they say they're going to do, and they're going to get in and do the job. So many times we find people, and we kind of like a personality or something about them, but when they get in there, they don't do the job. So, you listen to the people, serving 2 years or two terms in Congress, you're not going to get anything done. Okay, you're not going to get anything done for the people. Two terms and you're out. You're just getting your feet wet. Think about the
How many
workforce.
terms do you think somebody should be in Congress?
I think three terms is a good term. And if not, then we find things that are happening right now. With Senator Mitch McConnell. The guy doesn't have the cognitive ability to be a senator right now. Okay, he needs to be focusing, like I said about my mom. He needs to be focusing on end of life issues. The man is struggling. What they did to Joe Biden, that family, was a disgrace to him. Okay, he was cognitively declining. We seen it as American people, and for his family, what is it? Here's what it is, friends. It's a power control play. People want the power. I'm not in it for the power. I don't need the power. I'm in it to represent the people. Okay. I know who wears the pants in my family is my wife. But it's a power play sometimes. People got to realize and recognize when they've given all that they can give, and now it's time to step aside and pass the torch and let somebody else take that and do more. Because right now, when we see things like this happening, it just drives this country down.
It
So
does, and
if
I
we have
kind of
term
agree
limits,
with you. I agree with term limits. I kind of agree with you there. But I also think it's our responsibility too, because we keep just re-electing the same people over and over and over again, and
well, that's what I
watching
was going to
them
get to next.
grow old and lose their cognitive ability, and we still vote them in. And we have to be
Right.
more educated as voters, and that's what Binford Chronicles and the board report IRC Media is we try to bring all of these candidates on so that people can learn more, get to know you guys, and make an
Well, what
informed
term limits
decision.
does when we sign term limits right now, because there's no legislation or amendment on that, is it's personal. So I signed the pledge for term limits saying I'll give the United States government in the House of Representatives 6 years of my life. Should my health allow me to do that? Now, if something were to happen along those 6 years and I wasn't able to serve, then it would be in the best interest of the country. And this is how you're trained as a military soldier. What is in the best interest? What is in the best interest for the Air Force? What is in the best interest for the country? And that's how we got to view and look at things. What's in the best interest to keep our country moving forward? And sometimes we have to recognize that we no longer have that ability to serve, and we have to do what's right and step down. And these guys have served so much time, they can retire. And they've why would a person want to push it so far that they're going to go out you're remembered,
Being
you're not remembered
remembered
for
poorly.
you're not remembered for how you started the race, you're
You
remembered for how
remember
you
how,
finished the race. So
yeah.
why would I just don't understand why Mitch
I
McConnell or
would,
his
yeah.
family would want him to go out, um, being remembered for the way he was. Lindsey Graham, God rest his soul. Man, he was a fighter and he was serving, whether you liked him or not. He was active and he was doing his part, and so he's going to be recognized in the history books for being a great senator, for going to bat for the United States of America, for trying to solve the issues in Ukraine and in Israel and all these other places. And that's the history that I would like to be remembered for. When people say, when I grow old and I hear little chit chats going on, I would like to be remembered as by the people. Hey, there's a guy that kept his word.
Good, not because you went out as a senile old man that didn't know his name or tripped on stage all the time. You don't want to end your career with those notes. You want to end your career shining. And
Well, and again, it's for the good of the country. What is best for this country?
hmm
And sometimes what's best for this country is for some of us to get out of the way, and that's what government needs to do. We need to do our part and not have big government. Reagan didn't have big government. Do our part and get out of the way.
no, he was one
Let
of my favorite
people,
presidents.
let people believe in the American dream, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Mhm.
And trying to control people all the time with video cameras and all this stuff it just infringes upon us. Man, if you want to write somebody a ticket, then instead of putting money in video cameras, employ some people and keep our country thriving and put them out on the road to do you know speed tickets
That's
and
what I
and
say.
pull
Put more
somebody over.
cops out there, and you won't need so many
Stop
cameras.
stop sending me a ticket when school's closed because I did 45 and a 40 and your camera took a picture of me. Maybe I sneezed the wrong way or maybe the sun was in my eyes or then you got to go and you got to try to fight a camera. I'm not in agreement with all of these things. And but it's the people that are in places of leadership that thought these ideas up, and maybe they were good ideas, but they didn't think the idea all the way through. And now the idea isn't so
Good
good.
point. That's right. Well,
So,
Steve, we are coming down to the hour, and it's been such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for coming on.
well, you're welcome. People in TV land here, my website is steverance.org. My contact information is on there. I'm very open to talk to people. Remember, this is your district, okay? We it's not Steve Rance's district, it's not whoever we elect their district. It's our district, and so we need to have that level of communication. And my door is always open. It's not a closed door. And should God allow me to serve in Congress, every one of you are invited to come up to the office that you have, that's your office, and come up and see me and talk about things. And let's get some good legislation passed. Let's put money back into our pocket. Let's protect our freedoms. Let's protect our Constitution, and let's just do what's right. Let's just leave it at that. Let's just do what's right. Let's do what's best for this country.
Yes, thank you. And what's your website so they can go visit that?
Okay, it's my name, Steve Rance. Rance is how you spell the last name, and you need to know that for the ballot. Steve Rance, steverance.org, O-R-G. There's places on there that you can go. If somebody wants a yard sign, you can sign up for a yard sign. If you want to volunteer to make phone calls, knock on doors, you could do that. If you want to just contact me and have a conversation, you can do that as well.
All right. Thank you for joining us at Binford Chronicles, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Well, I hope so too, Joanna. It's been a joy talking with you and being in your podcast tonight. God bless everybody, and I mean that. I don't say that just because they're words. I'm a pastor. I'm a believer, and I want God's abundance to pour out upon you.
Thank you, sir. All right, everybody. That was a great show. Loved having Steve Rance on. I love having all of the candidates on. And this is for you guys. Listen to what's going on. This is a more comfortable area for them to open up, to ask questions. I see some of you guys. Thank you, Mark, for jumping on. And Vicky Seidels, love that you came on tonight and you were watching. So share it with your friends, like-minded people. We've got elections coming up. If you look just above my head, early voting is August 8th through the 15th. Election day is August 18th. So get out there, vote for your candidate, and let's make this a red district. Right now, it's a blue district under Soto. So let's get these communists out and let's get the Republic in. So get out there, vote in droves. Do not wait, sit this out. Get out and vote. So thank you again for joining me on Binford Chronicles. And remember, I'm also every Friday at 7 p.m. at the Board Report IRC Media. Talk to you soon.